Yo, what's going on guys, it's Cynical and welcome back to another video. Today for you guys, we have a couple of things to talk about in regards to Kingdom Hearts, as there has been small bits of news that has kind of popped up over the past week, obviously ever since the momentous occasion of Sora getting into Super Smash Bros. He ended up releasing last week. I have been tinkering around with him for myself. He is a lot of fun to use. Currently, as of right now, Sora would have to be a very close second to that of Cloud. Cloud is still my main, only because I've been using Cloud ever since he was released for Smash 4 all of those years ago, but I would say as time goes on those placements might change. But kudos to Sakurai and his team for doing just such a fantastic job of translating Sora's moveset into a platform fighter. He works very, very well. Sonic Blade is disgusting. It's fantastic to use, but when it is being used against you, my god, that's some of the most infuriating Super Smash Bros. Shit I've ever come across. Anyway, we will talk more about Smash Ultimate and Sora being in Smash, but for today, I wanted to talk about two things in particular. First things first is the Kingdom Hearts on Nintendo Switch situation. Alongside the announcement that Sora would be getting added into Super Smash Bros., we also got the announcement that the Kingdom Hearts games are finally coming to Switch. This is something that we have been dribbling, foaming, and begging for like such a long time. But it is a little bit of a bittersweet situation, as of course the Kingdom Hearts games that are coming to Switch aren't true ports. They are cloud versions, which essentially means you need an internet connection in order to be able to play them. It's essentially just game streaming, not a true port. And of course the reception towards which hasn't exactly been too positive. We also have some information from Sakurai as to exactly how Sora got into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate 2. So, some good stuff, let's dive straight into it. So first things first, let's talk about the Kingdom Hearts on Nintendo Switch situation. Ichiro Hazima, who is the Kingdom Hearts series producer, was interviewed to do with this exact situation by Nintendo Life, and gave us a little bit more information on exactly why Square Enix decided to go with cloud versions, and that there is actually hope that we may potentially receive some native ports at some stage in the future. Nintendo Life asked, from an outsider looking in, we've seen other high quality ports of classic Square Enix games like Final Fantasy X and X-2 run natively on Switch, so what was the reason to release the Kingdom Hearts series on Switch as cloud versions, instead of optimizing them to run natively on Switch hardware? Ichiro said for some time our director Tetsuya Nomura had expressed his desire to deliver the Kingdom Hearts series to Nintendo Switch players. Him having seen and heard the demand, and so a great deal of consideration went into this internally. I can't help but chuckle when reading the comment of having seen and heard such demand towards getting the Kingdom Hearts series onto Switch. The team actually had to take in a lot of hard and heavy consideration as to exactly how they would execute bringing the series to Nintendo Switch. I think that's just a flat out lie. I think that if Square really took in some hard consideration, the best way to deliver these experiences would to be in a proper format, not one that is streaming, not one that requires internet. Because of course, when looking at having Kingdom Hearts on Switch, I think for the most part, the reason as to why people want the games on this system is to be able to take them around portably. I think that's the reason as to why anyone would want any sort of game that currently exists on other platforms to then come over to the Switch, right? To be able to play it portably. Unless of course you use your Switch as your main system, but I mainly use this to play Nintendo exclusives, and to be able to play those games I play on my home console on the go. So if I can't do that because I'm required to have a stable high-speed internet connection, it completely defeats the purpose of even having the Kingdom Hearts games on this thing. I may as well just play it on my PlayStation or my PC. Ichiro went on to say, bringing these titles to Nintendo Switch proved to be quite difficult for various reasons, including the storage capacity of the hardware, but we're excited that we were able to make it happen for the first time ever by utilizing the cloud service. So he mentions that there are various different issues towards bringing the Kingdom Hearts games over to Switch in a native port sense, and one of these issues is the storage capacity of the Switch itself. You guys should know that the internal capacity of the Switch is about 32 gigabytes. not much by today's standards. What I think that Square Enix is kind of forgetting here, which they shouldn't be because of course they have brought through a lot of their games onto the system, whether it be old school games and then porting them over to Nintendo Switch for the likes of like Star Ocean or The Last Remnant or Final Fantasy X-10-2, or of course other parts of their library that require these games to have a micro SD card for additional download space. So many Switch games as of right now require you to have a micro SD card because game file sizes are getting to a ridiculous point where that 32 gig internal storage ain't enough, son. So Square Enix, really, if they wanted to, could figure out a way of, let's say for instance 1.5 and 2.5, maybe having half of that collection on the cartridge and then the other half is required to be downloaded. Similar to the likes of Spyro the Reignited Trilogy for the Nintendo Switch. Spyro 1 was on the cartridge, and then Spyro 2 and 3, you had to download them off the eShop. And although I know that a lot of the community hates the fact of having that micro SD card and that it's branded on the front of the box, it is absolutely required in order to play. There's a lot of games like that, example NBA right here. People hate that. But if you were to weigh it out, what would you prefer, a cloud version or a true proper port just requiring you to have a big thick old SD card? Because the space of all of these Kingdom Hearts games is pretty substantial. Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 comes in close on about 60 gigs. Kingdom Hearts 2.8 is around about 30 gigs, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is about 40 gigs with Remind. Now, just like many other ports in the past, if these games were to come over to Switch, there would be massive file compression, but still so, I would say you absolutely would need an SD card. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and for the likes of like 1.5, 2.5, and Dream Drop Distance at least, again, Square Enix do have older games of theirs ported natively to the system that came out shortly after the Kingdom Hearts games or either before, so there's absolutely no reason why they can't. Kingdom Hearts 3 might be a little bit of a different story, that makes sense being a cloud version for the time being, but I don't think there's much of an excuse behind why Square Enix can't bring the older Kingdom Hearts games. What I think it comes down to is just a time-consuming sense of, as of right now, Square Enix have absolutely so much on their plate that I'm sure a Kingdom Hearts series native port for the Nintendo Switch is the least of their priorities. Ichiro went on to say, at this moment in time, the production of a native version is undecided. We believe that the cloud version is currently the best way to deliver the Kingdom Hearts series to Nintendo Switch players, but we are always excited to hear feedback from our fans and want to thank them all for their support. So the best takeaway from all of this is that, yeah, a true native port of the series is undecided, which means that at some stage in the future, it totally could happen. And again, I think that once things calm down for Square Enix, this might be something they will consider, especially due to the reaction of Sora even getting into Smash. I think that in itself garners the fact that the Kingdom Hearts series deserves a true proper port for this pancake. It's also great that Ichiro mentioned that Square Enix are always keen to hear feedback from the community, because it's been apparent that over the past few years, yes, Square Enix are actually really great at taking in feedback, responding to it, actually doing things about the feedback that they receive. So what is good to keep in mind is stay vocal. Keep begging and foaming and dribbling all over Twitter and asking Square Enix to bring these games to Nintendo Switch properly. Because if we stay loud enough, who knows, just as we've seen in the past with other things, it might end up happening. And the final thing I wanted to talk about today, guys, is how Sora got into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, because the story is quite funny. It's almost a scenario of things coming full circle. Sakurai was involved in a recent Famitsu poll talking about the final Super Smash Bros. Fighter, Sora, and exactly how he got into Ultimate. There's some interesting stuff here. I'm just pretty much going to be reading out the more interesting bits. I want to say a big shout out to Push Dustin over on Twitter for the English translations. Now, as most of you guys should already know, what was mentioned by Sakurai in the Sora presentation for Ultimate was that Sora, out of any DLC fighter, has been the most requested fighter of all time, going back to the fighter ballot, which again is absolutely insane to think. The power of Sora and Kingdom Hearts and Disney and Big Shoes and Keys is obviously quite strong. But this is the first piece of information right here, saying even though he was highly requested, Sakurai thought it'd be highly unlikely to get Sora into Smash. There's no doubt that the team involved with negotiations for Smash Bros. Also thought it was impossible as well. So this is one of the big controversial points of getting Sora into Smash over all of these years. The big argument point would be that it's never going to happen, mainly because of the fact that Disney owned the rights to that of Kingdom Hearts and the character of Sora. As we've heard over the course of time, Disney is an extremely hard company to work with, mainly due to guidelines, rules, restrictions, all of that yada yada nonsense. So because of Kingdom Hearts' major parent company being that of Disney, people thought it would just never happen, and it's funny to think that even Sakurai and his team thought the exact same thing. But one day an opportunity came through at a certain award venue. Sakurai had the chance to meet with a Disney representative. They said it would be great if Sora could get in, but that meeting alone wouldn't be able to get Sora into Smash Bros. The higher ups could feel differently and talks could fall apart. After long and careful discussions with Square, Nintendo, and Disney, the okay was finally given. Fighter Pass 2 has 6 fighters. Originally, Fighter Pass 2 was planned to only have 5 fighters in the past, just like Fighter Pass 1. All the fighters have been decided, but it looked like Sora would be able to join after all. So even though it was quite challenging, it was decided to increase the number of fighters in Fighter Pass 2. So that's what Sakurai had to say about Sora getting into Smash. Number one, I think it's absolutely hilarious that the reason as to how Sora got into Smash Ultimate was because of the fact that Sakurai bumped into a Disney executive at an award show. And what I was meaning before by everything comes full circle is this is sort of how Kingdom Hearts as a franchise came to be. Back when Tetsuya Nomura was working on Final Fantasy VII, the original one, all the way back when, in '97 as a character designer, he ended up bumping into a Disney executive in an elevator, as Disney at the time working next door to the Squaresoft building. It was due to this confrontation that led to the discussion and idea of bringing Final Fantasy and Disney together to create a new property, Kingdom Hearts. So it's insane to think that a very similar thing has happened here with Sora getting into Smash with Sakurai. And what's even crazier is, I guess, with them mentioning that they thought that Sora would be impossible for Super Smash Bros. Fighter Pass 2 was originally only then meant to have 5 characters, and all of those characters were already decided. Once the okay was given to actually have Sora in Smash, Sakurai was like, let's bump it up to 6, baby. So yeah, I think that's a really, really cool story as to how Sora came to Smash Ultimate. Thank God it's finally come to fruition. I'm still in absolute disbelief that it's real, that it's happened. Just because, yeah, Sora, I guess, out of any of the Super Smash Bros. Characters was that one impossible character, so everyone thought. Of course, you could say that for a numerous amount of different other characters that have gotten into Smash, you know, like Joker or Cloud. But Sora definitely is a wild card, so it's crazy to see that he's finally made it. Alright guys, that's all for today. Hopefully you dudes are having a fantastic one. As I said, I will be getting out some Ultimate content with Sora at some point soon, so be on the lookout for that. Hopefully you dudes are having a fantastic day. I'm Cynical. Stay fresh, stay awesome, stay groovy, and I'll catch you dudes in the next one. Peace.